Subscribe to my YouTube channel for deeply emotional, romantic, and mature stories that echo through your heart. Don't forget to like, share, and comment to support meaningful storytelling. The elevator doors closed with a soft whisper, leaving Maya and David alone in the confined space for what felt like an eternity. 37 floors stretched ahead of them. 37 floors of stolen glances and carefully controlled breathing. Maya's reflection in the polished steel doors showed a composed marketing director, but her racing heart told a different story. Entirely. "Good morning, Maya." David's voice carried that familiar warmth that made her stomach flutter. The same warmth that had been their undoing 3 months ago. "Morning," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. The space between them crackled with unspoken words, with memories of whispered confessions and stolen moments that had changed everything. As the elevator climbed toward their separate floors, Maya wondered how much longer they could keep pretending that what existed between them was just professional courtesy. The rule they'd established was simple: don't get caught. But every day, that rule became harder to follow. The doors opened on the 23rd floor, and Maya stepped out without looking back. She didn't need to see David's face to know he was watching her walk away. She could feel his gaze like a physical touch, warm and longing and full of the same desperate restraint that consumed her thoughts. What neither of them knew was that their carefully constructed facade was about to crumble, and the consequences would test not just their careers, but the very foundation of what they built together in the shadows of corporate secrecy. 6 months earlier, Maya Chen had walked into Morrison & Associates with nothing but ambition and a broken heart she was trying to forget. The marketing director position was supposed to be her fresh start, a chance to lose herself in campaign strategies and quarterly reports. Love, she decided, was a luxury she couldn't afford. David Morrison had other plans, though he didn't know it yet. Their first meeting was nothing like the romantic comedies promised. There were no dropped papers, no accidental coffee spills, no meet-cute moments that would make a perfect story later. Instead, Maya found herself in conference room C, presenting her 90-day strategic plan to the board of directors, including the company's enigmatic CEO. David Morrison sat at the head of the table, his dark eyes focused intently on her presentation. He asked sharp questions, challenged her assumptions, and made her defend every recommendation with the kind of intellectual rigor that both frustrated and thrilled her. "Your social media strategy is ambitious," he said when she finished, his voice carrying the subtle authority of someone who'd built an empire from nothing. "But what happens when our competitors copy our approach?" Maya met his gaze directly. "Then we'll already be 3 steps ahead, Mr. Morrison. I don't plan strategies for followers. I plan them for leaders." Something shifted in the room's atmosphere. David's expression softened just slightly, and Maya caught the ghost of a smile at the corner of his mouth. The other board members exchanged glances, but Maya couldn't look away from David's eyes. "Welcome to Morrison & Associates, Miss Chen," he said, and Maya felt like she'd just won something far more valuable than a job. The weeks that followed established a pattern that would eventually become their undoing. David would find reasons to stop by the marketing department, always with legitimate business questions that somehow stretched into longer conversations. Maya would linger after meetings, offering insights that went beyond her immediate responsibilities. "You don't have to stay late every night," David said one evening, appearing in her office doorway like a shadow. The floor was nearly empty, just the soft hum of computers and the distant sounds of the city below. Maya looked up from her computer screen, her eyes tired but bright. "Neither do you, but here we are." David stepped into her office, closing the door behind him with a soft click that somehow felt significant. "The Peterson campaign can wait until tomorrow, Maya. You've been working on it for 12 hours straight." "How do you know how long I've been working on it?" She asked, though. She already knew the answer. He'd been watching her, the same way she'd been watching him. Because I've been here just as long, he admitted, settling into the chair across from her desk. And I've been looking for an excuse to come talk to you for the past 2 hours. The honesty in his voice stole her breath. Maya saved her work and closed her laptop, giving him her full attention. What did you want to talk about? You, he said simply. Your ideas, your perspective, the way you see solutions where others see problems. You're brilliant, Maya, and I find myself looking forward to our conversations more than I should. The admission hung between them like a bridge neither was sure they should cross. Maya felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble, and she wasn't sure she wanted to stop them. David, she said softly, and the use of his first name felt like a small rebellion against every professional boundary she'd ever maintained. I know, he said, understanding all the things she couldn't say. I know all the reasons why this is complicated. The company policies, the professional implications, the fact that I'm your boss, and you're trying to build a career here. But? Maya prompted, because she could hear the unspoken word in his voice. But I can't stop thinking about you, he confessed. I can't stop wondering what it would be like to know you outside of these walls, to see you smile about something. That has nothing to do with quarterly projections or marketing strategies. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Every rational thought screamed at her to maintain professional distance, to thank him for his honesty and redirect the conversation to safer ground. Instead, she found herself saying, "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that maybe we could grab coffee sometime," David said, his voice careful and hopeful. Not as CEO and marketing director, but as two people who enjoy each other's company. The word coffee hung in the air between them, innocent and loaded with possibility. Maya knew that coffee would lead to dinner. Dinner would lead to long conversations, and long conversations would lead them down a path that could change everything. "1 cup of coffee," she said finally, surprising herself with her boldness. "But we need rules." David's smile was warm and genuine. "What kind of rules?" "First rule," Maya said, trying to ignore the way her pulse quickened at his expression. "What happens outside the office stays outside the office. No special treatment, no mixing personal with professional." "Agreed," David said. "What's the second rule?" Maya hesitated, then took a breath. "Don't get caught." The words felt dangerous and thrilling as she spoke them. David's eyes darkened with understanding, and Maya realized they'd just crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. "Don't get caught," he repeated, and the way he said it made it sound like a promise and a challenge all at once. Coffee became their gateway drug to something neither of them had planned. That first afternoon at the small cafe 3 blocks from the office, they talked for 2 hours about everything except work. Maya learned that David had built his company from nothing after his father's construction business failed, that he still sent money to his mother every month, and that he'd never married because he'd never found someone who understood his drive. David discovered that Maya had grown up translating for her immigrant parents, that she'd put herself through business school, working 3 jobs, and that her last relationship had ended when her ex-fiancé accused her of loving her career more than him. "Maybe he was right," Maya said, stirring her 3rd cup of coffee. "Maybe I do love work more than people. Or maybe you just hadn't found the right person to love," David replied, and the way he looked at her made her believe it might be true. Their second coffee date happened a week later. Then another the following week. They were careful, methodical, meeting at different places and different times. Maya would leave the office first, and David would follow 20 minutes later. They never arrived together, never left together, and certainly never let their fingers brush when passing documents in meetings. The restraint was intoxicating. "This is insane," Maya said one evening as they walked through Central Park, maintaining a careful distance between them. We're acting like we're having an affair, and we haven't even held hands. Do you want to hold hands? David asked, and the simple question felt loaded with possibility. Maya looked around at the other couples walking the paths, at the easy intimacy they displayed without fear or consequence. Yes, she whispered, but not here. Not where someone might see. David's expression grew tender. Maya, we work for the same company. We don't work in the same department, and there's no company policy against relationships between employees. You're the CEO, Maya pointed out. I'm a director. That's a policy violation waiting to happen. And you know it. So what do you want to do? David asked, stopping beside a quiet pond where ducks glided across the water. Maya watched the ducks for a moment, envying their simple existence. I want to be careful, she said finally. I want to protect what we're building, even if I'm not sure what it is yet. What if I told you I was falling in love with you? David said quietly, and Maya's breath caught in her throat. She turned to face him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes, the way he'd opened himself up to her rejection. Then I'd tell you that I'm terrified because I'm falling in love with you too. The confession hung between them like a bridge, beautiful and fragile. David reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and when she didn't, he took her hand. In his new rule, he said, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. We're allowed to be in love, but only in places where no one knows us. Maya laughed, the sound slightly breathless. That's the most romantic and ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Do you have a better idea? David asked, and Maya realized she D-I-D and single quotes T. Their invisible love affair began in earnest after that night. They created a world that existed in the spaces between their professional lives. Weekend mornings in small bookstores across the city, where they'd sit in different sections but share secret smiles over the tops of novels. Evening walks through neighborhoods where no one from their office would think to look for them. Late night phone calls that stretched past midnight, their voices soft and intimate in the darkness. Maya's apartment became their sanctuary. David would arrive after 8, using the service entrance to avoid the doorman who might recognize him from business magazines. They'd cook dinner together, their movements around her small kitchen choreographed like a dance. They'd watch movies curled up on her couch, David's fingers threading through her hair while she rested her head on his shoulder. I love your laugh, David said one night, his voice rumbling through his chest where Maya's ear was pressed. I love that you make me laugh, Maya replied, tilting her head to look at him. I'd forgotten how good it felt. What else had you forgotten? David asked, his hand moving to cup her face. This, Maya whispered and kissed him for the first time. The kiss was soft and tentative, full of months of restrained longing. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard, and Maya felt like she was standing at the edge of a cliff. Maya, David said, his voice rough with emotion. I know, she said, understanding everything he couldn't say. I know this changes everything. Are you okay with that? He asked, and Maya could hear the fear in his voice, the same fear that made her heart race. I'm terrified, she admitted. But I've never been more sure of anything in my life. David's smile was radiant, and when he kissed her again, Maya felt like she was falling and flying at the same time. Loving David Morrison was like learning to breathe underwater. Maya had to train herself to function normally, while her entire world had shifted beneath her feet. She perfected the art of professional indifference, speaking to him in meetings with the same composed respect she'd shown from the beginning. But late at night, when his head was pillowed on her shoulder, and his breathing had evened out in sleep, Maya would stare at the ceiling and wonder how long they could maintain the charade. "You're thinking too loud," David murmured one night, his arm tightening around her waist. "Sorry," Maya whispered, pressing a kiss to the top of his head. "Just planning tomorrow's presentation." "Liar," David said, but there was affection in his voice. "You're worrying about us." Maya was quiet for a long moment, then sighed. "Aren't you?" David shifted so he could look at her face in the dim light filtering through her bedroom windows. "Every day," he admitted. "But not because I doubt what we have. I worry because I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore." The words hit Maya like a physical blow, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. David ... "I know it's too soon to say things like that," he said quickly. "I know we agreed to take this slow and be careful. But Maya, I love you. I love the way you argue with me in board meetings. And I love the way you make coffee too strong. And I love that you fall asleep reading reports on my chest." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "I love you too," she whispered. "That's what scares me." "Why?" David asked, his thumb brushing away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. "Because love makes people do stupid things," Maya said. "Love makes people careless, and we can't afford to be careless." David was quiet for a moment, then said, "What if we weren't secret anymore?" Maya's heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "What if we went public? Disclosed the relationship to HR, dealt with whatever? Policies need to be addressed and stopped hiding." Maya sat up, pulling the sheet around herself. "David, you could lose everything. The board, the shareholders, the company you built from nothing. And you could lose your job," David said, sitting up beside her. "But Maya, we're both miserable. Living like this, aren't we?" Maya wanted to deny it, but she couldn't. The constant vigilance was exhausting. The careful choreography of their days, the stolen moments, the way they had to pretend that the most important person in their lives meant nothing to them in public. "I'm not miserable when I'm with you," she said softly. "I'm only miserable when I have to pretend you don't matter." "Then let's stop pretending," David said, taking her hands in his. "Let's figure out how to make this work in the daylight." Maya felt a flutter of hope, quickly followed by a wave of anxiety. "What about the Peterson campaign? I've been working on it for months, and if this goes badly—" "Maya," David interrupted gently, "you're the most talented marketing director I've ever worked with. If anyone tried to suggest that your professional accomplishments were based on anything other than your brilliance, I'd have some very sharp words for them." "You can't protect me from everything," Maya said, though her heart warmed at his fierce protectiveness. "No," David agreed. "But I can love you openly instead of in shadows. I can take you to dinner somewhere nicer than the little cafe on 5th Street. I can hold your hand in public and introduce you as my girlfriend, instead of pretending we barely know each other." Maya felt her resolve wavering. The picture David painted was so tempting, so normal and beautiful, and everything she'd denied herself for months. "What would we do first?" she asked, and David's smile was brilliant. "First," he said, leaning down to kiss her softly, "we'd have a conversation with Jennifer in HR. Then we'd figure out any necessary adjustments to our professional relationship to avoid conflicts of interest. And then?" Maya asked, though she was already imagining the freedom of not having to hide anymore. "And then," David said, "I'd ask you to be my date to the Morrison Foundation Gala next month, and I'd get to spend the entire evening dancing with the woman I love, instead of watching her from across the room." Maya closed her eyes, imagining it, the elegant ballroom, the soft music, David's hand in hers as they moved across the dance floor. No stolen glances, no carefully maintained distance, just the simple joy of being together. Okay, she said, opening her eyes to find David watching her with an expression of hope and love so intense it took her breath away. Okay? He repeated, as if he couldn't quite believe it. Okay, Maya said more firmly. Let's stop hiding. David kissed her then, deep and passionate and full of promise. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard, and Maya felt like she was standing at the beginning of a new chapter of her life. I love you, David said against her lips. I love you too, Maya replied, and for the first time in months, she didn't whisper it like a secret. Maya should have known that happiness was too fragile to last. She should have trusted her instincts. Should have remembered that in corporate America, perception was often more powerful than truth. That she'd been too caught up in the joy of loving David openly to see the storm. Clouds gathering on the horizon. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday morning. Maya arrived at the office to find her assistant, Jenny, looking uncomfortable and avoiding eye contact. Good morning, Jenny, Maya said, settling her purse in her desk drawer. What's on the schedule today? Miss Chen? Jenny's voice was uncharacteristically hesitant. Jennifer from HR called. She wants to see you in her office at 9:30. Maya's blood ran cold. She and David had planned to speak with Jennifer the following week, after the Peterson campaign launch. They'd agreed to wait until after the major presentation to avoid any suggestion that their relationship had influenced the project. Did she say what it was about? Maya asked, trying to keep her voice casual. Jenny shifted uncomfortably. She just said it was urgent and confidential. Maya's mind raced. Had someone seen them together? Had their careful facade slipped somewhere? She thought through the past few weeks, trying to remember any moment where they might have been less than perfectly professional. Thank you, Jenny, Maya said, managing a smile. Please reschedule my 10 o'clock meeting with the design team. The walk to Jennifer's office felt like a death march. Maya knocked on the door and Jennifer's voice called for her to come in. The HR director looked up from her computer with an expression that Maya couldn't read. Maya, please sit down, Jennifer sighed, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. We need to discuss a sensitive matter. Maya sat, her hands folded carefully in her lap. What can I help you with? Jennifer opened a file folder and pulled out several photographs. Maya's heart stopped as she saw herself and David walking together through Central Park, their hands intertwined, their faces clearly visible. These were delivered to my office yesterday, Jennifer said, her voice carefully neutral, along with a note suggesting that there might be a conflict of interest situation I should be aware of. Maya stared at the photos, her mind reeling. Who had taken them? Who had been watching them? I see, Maya said finally, her voice steadier than she felt. What would you like to know? Jennifer leaned back in her chair. Maya, I need to ask you directly. Are you involved in a personal relationship with David Morrison? Maya met Jennifer's gaze steadily. Yes, she said. We are. How long has this been going on? Jennifer asked. 3 months, Maya replied. We were planning to disclose the relationship to you next week, after the Peterson campaign launch. Jennifer nodded slowly. I appreciate your honesty. However, Maya, you understand that this puts the company in a difficult position. The Peterson campaign was a major account, and if anyone suggests that your relationship with David influenced the decision to give you that project. The Peterson campaign was assigned to me 2 months before David and I became involved, Maya said firmly. My personal relationship with him has never influenced my professional work. I believe that, Jennifer said. That perception is often more important than reality in situations like this. The board is going to have questions, and we need to be prepared with answers. Maya felt the walls closing in around her. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything yet, Jennifer said. But Maya, I need you to understand that this situation is complicated. David is the CEO, and while there's no explicit policy against relationships between employees, there are considerations about power dynamics and potential conflicts of interest. Are you firing me? Maya asked directly. Jennifer sighed. I'm not firing you, but I am going to have to investigate this situation thoroughly. In the meantime, I need you to maintain professional boundaries with David and avoid any appearance of impropriety. Maya felt like she was drowning. Does David know about this? He's my next appointment, Jennifer said. Maya, I want you to know that I'm not trying to punish you. But whoever sent these photos clearly wants to cause trouble, and we need to handle this carefully. Maya stood, her legs unsteady. I understand. One more thing, Jennifer said as Maya reached the door. The Peterson campaign presentation is tomorrow. Given the circumstances, I think it would be best if David wasn't present for your presentation. Maya's heart shattered. The Peterson campaign was her masterpiece. Months of work and creativity and strategic thinking. David had been looking forward to seeing her present it, had been so proud of what she'd accomplished. I understand, Maya said again, though the words felt like broken glass in her throat. Maya made it back to her office before the tears started. She closed her door and sat at her desk, staring at the campaign materials spread across her workspace. Everything she'd worked for, everything she'd built, was crumbling around her. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. We need to talk. My office, after my meeting with Jennifer. Maya wiped her eyes and tried to compose herself. She had a presentation to perfect, a career to salvage, and a heart to somehow hold together. But as she looked at the campaign materials, Maya realized that the hardest part wasn't the potential damage to her career. The hardest part was the fear that loving David might have cost her everything she'd worked so hard to achieve. And the worst part was that she didn't regret it. Even knowing the cost, even facing the possibility of losing everything, she couldn't bring herself to regret loving him. The question was whether their love was strong enough to survive what was coming next. David's office felt different when Maya entered it an hour later. The same mahogany desk, the same view of the city skyline. But now it felt like a courtroom where her future hung in the balance. Close the door, David said without looking up. From the documents spread across his desk, his voice was tight with controlled emotion. Maya closed the door and took a seat across from him, the same chair where they'd had their first real conversation months ago. It felt like a lifetime had passed since then. You saw the photos, David said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Maya replied. Do you know who took them? David finally looked up and Maya's heart clenched at the pain in his eyes. Marcus Webb from the board, he said. Apparently he's been having me followed for weeks. Why? Maya asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Because he's been looking for a way to remove me as CEO, David said bitterly. He's never forgiven me for blocking his son's promotion last year, and now he thinks he's found his ammunition. Maya felt the room spin around her. David, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. No, David said sharply, standing and moving around the desk to kneel beside her chair. Maya, this is not your fault. This is Webb being vindictive and using our relationship as a weapon. But if we hadn't... Maya started, but David cut her off. If we hadn't what? Fallen in love? Then happy. Maya, I won't apologize for loving you, and I won't let you apologize for it either. Maya looked into his eyes, seeing the same fierce protectiveness that had drawn her to him in the first place. What did Jennifer say to you? David's expression darkened. She said the board is calling an emergency meeting tomorrow. Webb is pushing for a vote of no confidence. claiming that my relationship with you represents a compromise of company integrity. And the Peterson campaign? Maya asked, though she dreaded the answer. They want to reassign it, David said, and Maya felt her heart break into pieces. Jennifer thinks it would be best if someone else presented it tomorrow. Maya closed her eyes, feeling everything she'd worked for slipping away. 6 months of work, she whispered. 6 months of 18-hour days and weekend research and fighting for every creative decision. Maya, David said softly, taking her hands in his. I won't let them do this to you. I won't let them destroy your career because of me. You can't. Protect me from this, Maya said, opening her eyes to meet his gaze. You can't fix this, David. Not without sacrificing everything you've built. David was quiet for a long moment, then stood and walked to the window. What if I resigned? He said finally. Maya's heart stopped. What? What if I stepped down as CEO? David said, turning back to face her. Webb would get what he wants and you'd be free to continue your career without any shadow of impropriety. David, no, Maya said, standing to face him. You can't give up everything you've worked for. This company is your life. You're my life, David said simply, and Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. Maya, I built this company to prove something. To myself, to show that I could succeed where my father failed. But what's the point of success if I can't share it with the person I love? Maya felt like she was drowning in the intensity of his love, in the magnitude of what he was offering to sacrifice for her. I can't let you do that, she said. I won't. Be the reason you lose everything. Then what do you suggest? David asked, and Maya could hear the desperation in his voice. Because I can't go back to pretending I don't love you. I can't sit in board meetings and watch you present and act like you don't mean everything to me. Maya took a shaky breath, knowing what she had to do, but not sure she had the strength to do it. I'll resign, she said quietly. Maya, no, David sighed, but she held up a hand to stop him. Listen to me, she said, her voice growing stronger. I can find another job. I can rebuild my career. But you can't rebuild Morrison and Associates. You can't recreate 15 years of work and all the people who depend on this company for their livelihoods. I don't care about the company if I can't have you, David said, and Maya felt her resolve waver at the raw emotion in his voice. Yes, you do, Maya said firmly. You care about the company, and you care about your employees, and you care about proving that you're better than them. People who want to tear you down. Don't let them win, David. Don't let them take everything from you. David stared at her for a long moment, then sank into his chair. So what are you saying? That we give up? That we let them destroy what we have? Maya moved to stand behind his chair, her hands resting on his shoulders. I'm saying that sometimes love means making impossible choices. I'm saying that I love you enough to walk away if it means protecting everything you've built. And I'm saying that I love you enough to burn it all down rather than lose you, David replied, reaching up to cover her hands with his. They stood there in silence, the weight of their impossible situation settling around them like a shroud. Maya felt the tears she'd been holding back finally begin to fall. There has to be another way, David said finally. There has to be a solution that doesn't require one of us to sacrifice everything. Maya wanted to believe him, but she couldn't see a path forward that didn't end in destruction for one or both of them. What if there isn't? She asked quietly. David turned in his chair to face her, his eyes bright with unshed tears. Then we'll face whatever comes together, he said. Because I'm not giving up on us, Maya. I'm not giving up on you. Maya leaned down and kissed him, pouring all of her love and fear and desperate hope into the contact. When they broke apart, both were crying. I love you, Maya whispered against his lips. I love you too, David replied. And tomorrow we'll figure out how to fight for what we have. But as Maya left his office that evening, she couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow would bring not a battle they could win, but a choice that would break both their hearts. Maya arrived at the office the next morning to find an email waiting for her. Peterson campaign presentation, 10 a.m., conference room, a lead presenter. Sarah Mitchell. Sarah Mitchell, Maya's junior colleague, who had contributed research to the campaign but had never led a major presentation. Maya stared at the email for a long moment, feeling the final pieces of her career crumbling around her. Maya? Jenny's voice came from the doorway. Sarah's here to see you. Maya looked up to see Sarah hovering in the doorway, her expression a mixture of excitement and guilt. Come in, Sarah. Sarah closed the door behind her and sat down across from Maya's desk. I just want you to know that I didn't ask for this, she said immediately. Jennifer called me last night and told me I'd be presenting the Peterson campaign this morning. I tried to tell her that it was your project, but she said the decision had already been made. Maya felt a stab of sympathy for the younger woman. Sarah was brilliant and hardworking, but she was being set up to present someone else's work, while that person sat in the audience watching. Sarah, Maya said gently, I want you to know that I don't blame you for this. You didn't create this situation. But it's not fair, Sarah said, her voice tight with emotion. Everyone knows this is your campaign. You should be the one presenting it. Maya managed a small smile. Life isn't always fair, Sarah. But the campaign is good work, and I want it to succeed regardless of who's presenting it. Will you help me? Sarah asked. I know the material, but I don't know it the way you do. I don't know the passion behind it. Maya felt something shift inside her. Of course I'll help you, she said. Let's make sure you're ready to knock them dead. They spent the next hour going through the presentation, with Maya sharing the strategic thinking behind each decision, the research that had informed each recommendation, and the creative vision that tied everything together. Sarah was a quick study, asking smart questions and making notes throughout. Remember, Maya said as they finished, the Peterson account isn't just about selling widgets. It's about connecting with people who are trying to build something meaningful in their lives. Every recommendation we've made is designed to honor that aspiration. Sarah nodded, her expression determined. I've got this, Maya. I won't let your work down. As Sarah left to prepare for the presentation, Maya felt a strange sense of peace. She couldn't control what happened to her career, but she could control how she handled the situation. She could choose grace over bitterness, mentorship over resentment. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. Board meeting moved to 2 p.m. Will you be at the Peterson presentation? Maya stared at the message, knowing that attending the presentation would be torture, but also knowing that she needed to be there. She needed to see her work presented, even if she couldn't present it herself. Yes, she texted back. I'll be there. At 9:55 a.m., Maya walked into conference room A to find it packed with executives, board members, and Peterson Company representatives. Sarah stood at the front of the room, her hands trembling slightly as she shuffled through her notes. Maya caught Sarah's eye and gave her an encouraging nod. Sarah's expression relaxed slightly, and Maya felt a surge of pride in the younger woman's courage. Good morning, Sarah began, her voice gaining strength as she spoke. I'm here to present the Morrison & Associates strategic marketing campaign for Peterson Industries. Maya watched as Sarah moved through the presentation with growing confidence. The younger woman hit every key point, explained every strategic decision, and fielded questions with the knowledge Maya had shared with her. But as the presentation continued, Maya became aware of something else happening in the room. The Peterson representatives were taking notes, nodding at key points, and exchanging impressed looks. The Morrison and Associates executives were leaning forward, engaged and excited. And then Maya noticed Marcus Webb, the board member who had orchestrated her downfall, whispering something to the man beside him. Both men were looking at Maya with expressions that made her stomach turn. The presentation concluded to enthusiastic applause. The Peterson representatives requested a brief recess to discuss the proposal, and the room began to empty. "Maya," a voice said behind her. She turned to find James Peterson, the company's CEO, approaching her with a warm smile. "Mr. Peterson," Maya said, extending her hand. "I hope you found the presentation helpful." "More than helpful," James said, shaking her hand. "It was brilliant. The strategic thinking, the creative vision, the deep understanding of our company culture. It's exactly what we've been looking for." Maya felt a flush of pride, followed immediately by a stab of sadness. "I'm so glad to hear that. Sarah did an excellent job presenting it." "She did," James agreed. "But Maya, I've been in this business for 30 years, and I know the difference between someone presenting work and someone who created it. That presentation had your fingerprints all over it." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. "Which is why I'm confused," James continued. "Why weren't you the one presenting your own work?" Maya glanced around the room, noticing that several people were still within earshot, including Marcus Webb. "It was a management decision," she said diplomatically. James followed her gaze and seemed to understand. "I see," he said. "Maya, I hope you know that talent like yours doesn't go unnoticed. If circumstances ever change, I'd love to have a conversation with you about opportunities at Peterson Industries." Maya's heart skipped a beat. "Thank you, Mr. Peterson. That means more than you know." As James walked away, Maya felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to find David behind her, his expression unreadable. "That was your work up there," he said quietly. "Everyone in that room knows it." "It doesn't matter," Maya said, but her voice lacked conviction. "It does matter," David said. "Maya, what James Peterson just offered you, that's recognition of your talent. That's proof that what we're going through here doesn't define your worth or your future." Maya looked into David's eyes, seeing the same mixture of pride and pain that she felt in her own chest. "The board meeting is in 2 hours," she said. "I know," David replied. "Maya, whatever happens in that meeting, I want you to know that loving you has been the best decision I've ever made, even if it costs me everything." Before Maya could respond, Marcus Webb's voice cut through the air. "How touching," he said, approaching them with a satisfied smirk. The CEO and his marketing director having a heart-to-heart about business strategy, I'm sure. Maya felt David tense beside her, but she placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Mr. Webb," she said evenly, "I hope you found the presentation satisfactory." "Oh, it was excellent," Webb said, his eyes glinting with malice. "Though I have to wonder about the chain of command that led to such a unusual presenting arrangement. The presentation was assigned by HR to ensure proper protocol," Maya said, maintaining her professional composure despite the fury building in her chest. "Of course it was," Webb said, "and I'm sure the board will be very interested to hear about all the proper protocols that have been followed recently." David stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "Marcus, if you have something to say it directly." "I'll save my comments for the board meeting," Webb said with a cold smile. "I'm sure it will be very enlightening for everyone involved." As Webb walked away, Maya felt the weight of the afternoon's inevitable confrontation settling on her shoulders. She looked at David, seeing the same dread in his eyes. 2 hours, she said quietly. 2 hours, David agreed. "Maya, Whatever happens in that meeting, I need you to know that I don't regret any of this. I don't regret loving you. And I don't regret the choices we made. Maya felt tears threatening again. Even if it costs you your company. Even then, David said firmly, because a life without love isn't really living at all. The boardroom at Morrison & Associates had never felt more like a battlefield. Maya sat in the back row, technically present as marketing director, but knowing that she was really there as the accused. David sat at the head of the long mahogany table, his expression calm and controlled, but Maya could see the tension in his shoulders. Marcus Webb sat directly across from David, a folder of documents spread before him like weapons. The other board members looked uncomfortable, clearly wishing they were anywhere else. This emergency meeting has been called to address concerns about leadership and company integrity, Webb began, his voice carrying the authority of someone who believed he'd already won. Specifically, concerns about conflicts of interest and inappropriate relationships within our executive structure. Maya felt her heart pounding as Webb opened his folder and distributed copies of the photographs. That had started this nightmare. The images looked even more damning in the formal boardroom setting. She and David walking hand in hand, sharing quiet conversations, looking at each other with obvious affection. These photographs, Webb continued, document a personal relationship between our CEO and a direct report that has been conducted in secret for months. This relationship raises serious questions about professional judgment, conflict of interest, and potential abuse of power. David leaned forward, his voice steady. Marcus, I appreciate your concerns, but I need to correct several misconceptions. First, Maya Chen is not my direct report. She reports to the marketing division head, who reports to the VP of operations. Second, our relationship has never influenced any professional decisions or created any conflicts of interest. How can you say that? Webb shot back. Ms. Chen was assigned the Peterson campaign, one of our most lucrative accounts. Are you telling me that your personal relationship with her had no bearing on that decision? Maya felt the room's attention shift to her, but before she could speak, David answered. The Peterson campaign was assigned to Maya 2 months before our personal relationship began. The assignment was made based on her exceptional track record and strategic expertise, as documented in her performance reviews and client feedback. Webb's expression darkened. And what about the special treatment? The extended meetings, the private consultations, the obvious favoritism? If you're referring to our professional collaboration, David said coolly, then yes, I've worked closely with Maya on several projects, because she's the most innovative marketing strategist this company has ever employed, and her insights have contributed to our strongest quarterly performance in 5 years. Maya felt a surge of pride at David's words, but it was quickly overshadowed by the realization that his defense of her was only reinforcing Webb's narrative about their relationship. Mr. Morrison, said Eleanor Hayes, the board's longest-serving member, while we appreciate your confidence in Ms. Chen's abilities, the issue isn't her competence. The issue is the appearance of impropriety and the potential damage to the company's reputation. What damage? David asked. Our clients are happy. Our employees are productive, and our profits are up 15% from last year. What exactly is the problem? Webb leaned back in his chair, looking satisfied. The problem, David, is that you've compromised your judgment and put your personal desires ahead of the company's interests. How can we trust your leadership when you've been conducting a secret relationship with an employee? Maya felt something snap inside her. She stood up from her seat in the back row, her voice carrying clearly across the room. Excuse me, but I'd like to respond to that accusation. The room fell silent, all eyes turning to her. Maya walked to the front of the room, her heart racing but her resolve firm. Mr. Webb, she said, looking directly at him. You've spent this entire meeting talking about me as if I'm not here, as if I'm some kind of object or pawn in your game with David. But I'm a grown woman who makes her own choices, and I'm perfectly capable of speaking for myself. Webb's expression shifted to surprise, then irritation. Ms. Chun, this is a board meeting. Your presence here is already irregular. My presence here is necessary, Maya said firmly, because you're discussing my professional conduct and my personal life, and I won't sit quietly while you distort the truth to serve your own agenda. Eleanor Hayes leaned forward. Ms. Chun, what would you like to say? Maya took a deep breath, knowing that her next words would determine not just her future, but David's as well. I'd like to say that yes, David and I are in a relationship. We fell in love, and we chose to explore that relationship carefully and responsibly. We maintained complete professional boundaries, never allowed our personal feelings to influence business decisions, and were planning to disclose the relationship to HR next week. Why the secrecy? Asked another board member. Because we knew that people would make assumptions, Maya said, glancing at Webb. We knew that our relationship would be viewed through the lens of power dynamics and potential conflicts of interest, regardless of the actual facts. We wanted to protect the company from exactly this kind of speculation and controversy. Webb leaned forward aggressively. So you admit that you were deceiving the company and the board? I admit that we were being careful, Maya replied. We were taking time to make sure that our relationship was serious and sustainable before bringing it to the attention of HR and the board. We were being responsible. Responsible? Webb laughed harshly. You've created a public relations nightmare and put the company at risk of lawsuits and regulatory scrutiny. How is that responsible? Maya felt David start to stand, but she held up a hand to stop him. This was her fight now. Mr. Webb, she said, her voice growing stronger. The only person who's created a public relations nightmare is you. You hired a private investigator to follow David, violated his privacy, and then used those photographs to orchestrate this meeting. You've turned a private relationship into a public spectacle for your own political purposes. The room erupted in murmurs. Webb's face flushed red. How dare you? How dare I what? Maya interrupted. How dare I point out that you've been looking for a way to remove David as CEO ever since he blocked your son's unqualified promotion? How dare I suggest that this whole situation is less about company integrity and more about your personal vendetta? Eleanor Hayes banged her gavel. That's enough. Ms. Chun, while we appreciate your perspective, accusations and personal attacks aren't helpful here. Maya felt her composure cracking. You want to know what's not helpful? Destroying good people's careers because of petty office politics. David Morrison has built this company into something extraordinary. He's created jobs, generated millions in revenue, and earned the respect of every client and employee. And you're willing to throw all of that away because he fell in love with someone who works here. The issue isn't love, Webb said coldly. The issue is judgment and leadership. Then let me address judgment and leadership, Maya said, her voice ringing with conviction. David Morrison showed judgment when he hired me based on my qualifications, not my connections. He showed leadership when he supported my ideas, even when they challenged conventional thinking. And he showed integrity when he put the company's interests ahead of his own personal desires every single day. Maya turned to face the full board. You want to talk about conflicts of interest? Let's talk about the fact that Mr. Webb's son-in-law just happens to work for Peterson Industries' biggest competitor. Let's talk about the fact that removing David as CEO would clear the way for the merger that Webb has been pushing for months. A merger that would make him and his allies very wealthy, while costing hundreds of employees their jobs. The room fell silent. Webb's face had gone pale, and Maya could see that her words had hit their mark. "Those are serious accusations," Eleanor Hayes said quietly. "They're not accusations," Maya replied. "They're facts that can be verified with basic research. David Morrison isn't the one with questionable motives here." Maya looked around the room at the faces of the board members, seeing uncertainty where there had been condemnation moments before. Then she looked at David, who was watching her with an expression of awe and admiration that made her heart soar. "I love David Morrison," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I love his integrity, his vision, his compassion for the people who work for him. I love the way he fights for what's right, even when it's difficult. And I love the way he's never once asked me to compromise my principles or my career for his benefit." Maya took a deep breath, knowing that her next words would seal both their fates. "If this board decides that loving a good man disqualifies me from working at this company, then I'll accept that decision. But I won't apologize for it, and I won't let you use our relationship to destroy the best CEO this company has ever had." The room was completely silent as Maya returned to her seat. David was looking at her with an expression of such love and pride that she felt tears spring to her eyes. Eleanor Hayes cleared her throat. "The board will need time to consider everything that's been discussed here today. We'll reconvene tomorrow morning to make our decision." As the board members filed out of the room, Maya felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to find David behind her, his eyes bright with emotion. "Maya," he said softly, "that was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." "I meant every word," she replied, and when he kissed her, she didn't care who might see. Maya woke up in David's arms, the morning light filtering through the windows of his penthouse apartment. For a moment, she allowed herself to forget about board meetings and ultimatums, focusing instead on the steady rhythm of his breathing and the warmth of his body against hers. They had come to his apartment after the board meeting, too emotionally exhausted to maintain their usual careful distance. Whatever happened next, they had decided to face it together. "Good morning," David murmured, his voice rough with sleep. "Good morning," Maya replied, tilting her head to look at him. "How did you sleep?" "Better than I expected," David said, pressing a gentle kiss to the top of her head. "Having you here made everything feel more manageable." Maya smiled, then felt reality crash back down on her. "The board meeting is in 3 hours." "I know," David said, his arm tightening around her. "Maya, whatever they decide, I want you to know that yesterday was the proudest moment of my life. The way you stood up for yourself, for us, for the company, it was incredible." "I couldn't let Webb destroy you," Maya said simply. "Not when. I know the kind of man you are." David was quiet for a moment, then said, "What if they ask me to choose between you and the company?" Maya had been dreading this question, but she met his gaze steadily. "Then you choose the company." "Maya, David, listen to me," she said, sitting up to face him. "You've spent 15 years building Morrison and Associates. You've created jobs for hundreds of people. You've built something meaningful and lasting. I won't let you throw that away for me." "What if I want to throw it away?" David asked, reaching up to cup her face. "What if I've realized that none of it matters without you?" Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. "Then you're not thinking clearly." "David, I love you. But I also love the man you are when you're running that company. I love watching you strategize and innovate and lead. I love seeing you fight for your employees and your vision. Don't let Webb take that away from you." "And what about you?" David asked. "What about your career, your dreams?" Maya took a shaky breath. "I'll figure it out. James Peterson made it clear yesterday that there are opportunities for me elsewhere. Maybe this is the push I needed to take a bigger leap." I don't want you to leave, David said, his voice breaking slightly. I don't want to leave either, Maya admitted. But David, sometimes love means making sacrifices. Sometimes it means choosing what's best for the person you love, even if it's not what's best for you. David pulled her down into his arms, holding her tightly. I hate that it's come to this, he said against her hair. I hate that loving you has put you in this position. I don't hate it, Maya said, surprising herself with the truth of it. David, these past few months have been the happiest of my life. Even with all the complications, even with all the secrecy. I've never felt more alive than I do when I'm with you. Then why are you willing to walk away? David asked. Maya pulled back to look at him. Because I'm not walking away from you. I'm walking away from a situation that's hurting both of us. David, we can't build a life together on the foundation of your destroyed career and my compromised reputation. So what are you suggesting? David asked. I'm suggesting that we trust in what we have, Maya said. I'm suggesting that if our love is real, it will survive this. Maybe not in the way we planned. Maybe not in the timeline we wanted. But it will survive. David was quiet for a long moment, then said, What if the board decides in our favor? What if they censure Webb and allow us to stay? Then we'll have learned something valuable about fighting for what we believe in, Maya said. And we'll never take for granted how rare and precious this is. David kissed her then, deep and passionate, and full of all the words they couldn't say. When they broke apart, both were crying. I love you, David said. I love you too, Maya replied. And whatever happens today, that's not going to change. They spent the next hour making breakfast together, moving around his kitchen with the easy intimacy they developed over months of stolen mornings. Maya found herself memorizing every detail, the way David hummed while he made coffee, the way he automatically handed her the newspaper's business section, the way he looked at her like she was the most important thing in his world. At 9 o'clock, they left for the office separately, one last time. Maya arrived first, finding her office filled with flowers and cards from colleagues who had heard about the situation. Sarah Mitchell was waiting by her desk, her eyes red from crying. Maya, I'm so sorry, Sarah said immediately. I should have refused to do the presentation. I should have stood up for you. Sarah, you did nothing wrong, Maya said, pulling the younger woman into a hug. You handled an impossible situation with grace and professionalism. I'm proud of you. But it's not fair, Sarah said. Everyone knows this is about politics, not about you or David. Life isn't always fair, Maya said, echoing her words from the day before. But that doesn't mean we stop fighting for what's right. Jenny appeared in the doorway, looking nervous. Maya? Eleanor Hayes wants to see you in her office before the board meeting. Maya's heart raced. Did she say what about? Just that she wanted to speak with you privately, Jenny said. Maya made her way to Eleanor's office, her mind racing through possibilities. Was this good news or bad news? Was Eleanor trying to prepare her for the board's decision? Maya, please sit down, Eleanor said when she arrived. The older woman looked tired, as if she'd been up all night wrestling with difficult decisions. Mrs. Hayes, Maya said, settling into the chair across from her desk. Thank you for seeing me. Maya, I wanted to speak with you before the board meeting because I believe you deserve to know where things stand, Eleanor said. Your speech yesterday was compelling. It gave the board a lot to think about. I hope it helped clarify the situation, Maya said carefully. Eleanor leaned back in her chair. It did. It also raised some uncomfortable questions about motivations and conflicts of interest that we hadn't previously considered. Maya felt a flicker of hope. Are you saying the board is reconsidering its position? I'm saying that the board is deeply divided, Eleanor said. Some members believe that David's relationship with you represents a serious breach of professional conduct that requires his removal as CEO. Others believe that Webb's actions and motivations are the real issue here. And you? Maya asked Eleanor. Smiled slightly. I believe that good leaders are defined by their judgment, their integrity, and their ability to put a company's interests first. David Morrison has demonstrated all of those qualities consistently over the past 15 years. One personal relationship, conducted with discretion and care, doesn't erase that record. Maya felt tears of relief spring to her eyes. Thank you. However, Eleanor continued, I also believe that moving forward will require some changes. The situation has created complications that need to be addressed. Maya's heart sank. What kind of changes? That's something that will be discussed in the board meeting, Eleanor said. But Maya, I want you to know that whatever happens, your contributions to this company have been invaluable. You're a talented, principled woman, and any company would be lucky to have you. Maya left Eleanor's office feeling more confused than ever. The board was divided. There would be changes, but she still had no idea what that meant for her future or David's. The walk to the boardroom felt like a death march, but when Maya saw David waiting outside the door, she felt her resolve strengthen. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. Ready? David asked, taking her hand. Ready, Maya said, and they walked into the boardroom to learn their fate. The boardroom was packed when Maya and David entered. All 12 board members were present, along with Jennifer from HR and several other executives. Maya noticed that Marcus Webb looked confident, while Eleanor Hayes appeared thoughtful and reserved. Please be seated, Eleanor said, gesturing to the chairs at the far end of the table. The board has reached a decision regarding the issues discussed yesterday. Maya felt David's hand squeeze hers under the table. Her heart was pounding so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. Before we announce our decision, Eleanor continued, I want to acknowledge that this situation has been difficult for everyone involved. The board has considered all aspects of the matter, including the professional conduct of all parties, the potential impact on company operations, and the broader implications for Morrison and Associates. Webb leaned forward, his expression expectant. Maya held her breath. After extensive deliberation, Eleanor said, the board has decided that CEO David Morrison will retain his position. Maya felt her knees go weak with relief. David's hand tightened on hers, and she could hear his sharp intake of breath. However, Eleanor continued, and Maya's heart sank, the board also recognizes that changes must be made to address the complications that have arisen. Here it comes, Maya thought. Here's where they fire me. The board has decided to implement a new policy regarding personal relationships between employees, Eleanor said. Going forward, any romantic relationship between employees must be disclosed. TOHR within 30 days of its beginning. Additionally, the board has decided to create a new position, Vice President of Strategic Marketing, REPORTING, directly to the CEO. Maya blinked in confusion. What did that have to do with anything? Eleanor turned to look directly at Maya. Ms. Chen, the board would like to offer you that position. The room spun around Maya. I'm sorry, what? The board was impressed by your presentation yesterday, Eleanor said with a small smile. Not just your defense of David, but your insights into company operations and your strategic thinking. We believe that your talents have been underutilized in your current position. Webb's face had gone purple. This is outrageous, he sputtered. You're rewarding her for exceptional performance and leadership, Eleanor cut him off smoothly. Mr. Webb, The board has also decided to investigate your allegations about conflicts of interest and personal vendettas. We take such matters very seriously. Webb's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Maya stared at Eleanor, still trying to process what was happening. There is one condition, Eleanor continued, looking between Maya and David. The board requires that you both participate in a professional development program focused on managing personal relationships in the workplace. Additionally, you'll be required to recuse yourselves from any decisions that might create conflicts of interest. Maya found her voice. Mrs. Hayes, I don't understand. Yesterday you were concerned about the appearance of impropriety, and now you're promoting me. Yesterday we were concerned about secrets and the potential for abuse of power, Eleanor said. Today we're choosing transparency and accountability. Your relationship with David is no longer a secret, and your new position will eliminate any reporting structure concerns. David spoke for the first time. Eleanor, I'm grateful for the board's confidence, but I need to know. Is this decision unanimous? Eleanor glanced around the table. The vote was 9-3. Mr. Webb and 2 others dissented. Webb stood up abruptly. This is a travesty. You're setting a dangerous precedent and compromising the integrity of this company. The integrity of this company, Eleanor said coolly, is best served by retaining our most talented employees and removing those who would use their positions for personal vendettas. Mr. Webb, the board has accepted your resignation. Webb's face went white. My resignation? I never submitted a resignation. You did when you hired a private investigator to violate the CEO's privacy, Eleanor said. The board considers that a serious breach of your fiduciary duties. Maya watched in amazement as Webb gathered his papers and stormed out of the room. She still couldn't quite believe what was happening. Maya, Eleanor said, do you accept the board's offer? Maya looked at David, seeing the pride and love in his eyes. Then she looked around the table at the board members, seeing acceptance and even approval in most of their faces. I accept, she said, her voice stronger than she felt. Thank you for this opportunity. Excellent, Eleanor said. David, Maya, congratulations. The board looks forward to seeing what you accomplish together. As the board members filed out of the room, Maya and David sat in stunned silence. Finally, David turned to her with a grin. Vice President of Strategic Marketing, he said. Has a nice ring to it. I can't believe this is real, Maya said, laughing through her tears. David, we won. We actually won. We did, David said, pulling her into his arms. But Maya, are you sure you want this? Are you sure you want to stay at Morrison & Associates after everything that's happened? Maya looked around. The boardroom where her career had almost ended and her future had been reborn. David, this company gave me a chance when I needed one. It's where I met you, where I learned to fight for what I believe in. I can't imagine wanting to be anywhere else. Even with all the complications, David asked. Especially with all the complications, Maya said. David, we've proven that our love can survive the worst kind of scrutiny and come out stronger. What could be more powerful than that? David kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, Maya felt like she was floating. So what happens now? She asked. Now, David said, we go back to work. We implement the Peterson campaign. We build the best marketing department in the city. And we show everyone what we can accomplish when we're not hiding anymore. And us? Maya asked. What happens with us? David's smile was radiant. Now we get to love each other in the daylight. Maya stood at the window of her new office, watching the city bustle below. The nameplate on her door read, Maya Chen, Vice President of Strategic Marketing, and she still got a thrill every time she saw it. admiring the view? David's voice came from behind her. Maya turned to find him standing in her doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. He looked relaxed and happy, more so than she'd ever seen him. "Always," she said, accepting the coffee with a smile. "Though I have to say, the view from the executive floor is pretty spectacular too." "I was hoping you'd say that," David said, moving to stand beside her at the window. "Because I have some news." "Good news or bad news?" Maya asked, though David's expression suggested it was definitely good. "The Peterson campaign won the Industry Excellence Award," David said, his voice full of pride. "Maya, you didn't just save that account, you created something extraordinary." Maya felt tears of joy spring to her eyes. "We created something extraordinary," she corrected. "David, none of this would have been possible without your support and belief in me." "I think we make a pretty good team," David said, and Maya laughed. "The best," she agreed. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the city and thinking about how far they'd come. The past 6 months had been challenging but incredible. Maya had thrown herself into her new role, building the marketing department into something truly special. David had proven that his leadership was stronger than ever, guiding the company to record profits and industry recognition. And their relationship had flourished in the open air. No more stolen moments or secret meetings. They could have dinner together without looking over their shoulders, attend company events as a couple, and simply enjoy being together without fear. "Maya," David said suddenly, and something in his tone made her turn to look at him. "Yes?" she said, and then her breath caught as she saw him pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "Maya Chun," David said, dropping to one knee beside her. "Desk, you are the most brilliant, brave, and beautiful woman I've ever known. You challenge me, inspire me, and make me want to be a better man every day. Will you marry me?" Maya stared at the ring, a simple, elegant solitaire that caught the afternoon light perfectly. Her heart was pounding, and she felt tears streaming down her face. "David," she whispered, then laughed through her tears. Yes, of course I'll marry you." David slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood to kiss her deeply. Maya felt like she was floating, like all the struggles and complications of the past year had led to this perfect moment. "I love you," David said against her lips. "I love you too," Maya replied. "And David, I'm so glad we broke that rule." "Which rule?" David asked, though he was smiling. "Don't get caught," Maya said, laughing. "Best decision we ever made." David spun her around her office, both of them laughing and crying and completely oblivious to the fact that half the marketing department was watching through the glass walls, applauding their happiness. Later that evening, as they sat on Maya's couch planning their future, Maya reflected on how different her life looked now than it had a year ago. She'd thought she was protecting herself by avoiding love, by focusing only on her career and her carefully constructed plans. That love, she'd learned, wasn't something to be avoided or controlled. It was something to be embraced, fought for, and celebrated. And when it was real love, the kind that made you braver and stronger and more yourself than you'd ever been, it was worth every risk. "What are you thinking about?" David asked, noticing her contemplative expression. "Just how grateful I am," Maya said, curling into his side. "For all of it. The complications, the challenges, the board meetings, even Marcus Webb." "Marcus Webb?" David asked in surprise. "If it hadn't been for him, we might have kept hiding forever," Maya said. "He forced us to fight for what we had, and that made it stronger." David considered this, then nodded. "You're right. In a strange way, we should probably thank him. Let's not get carried away," Maya said with a laugh. But David, I'm serious. Every challenge we faced made us more certain that this was right. Every obstacle we overcame proved that we were stronger together than apart. Do you think we'll have more challenges? David asked. Maya looked at her engagement ring, then at the man who'd asked her to share his life. Probably, she said. But I'm not worried about it anymore. We've proven that we can handle anything as long as we face it together. David kissed the top of her head. Together, he agreed, as they sat in the quiet of Maya's apartment, planning their wedding and their future. Maya felt a deep sense of contentment. She'd learned that love wasn't about avoiding complications or playing it safe. It was about finding someone worth fighting for, someone who made you brave enough to risk everything for the chance at something extraordinary. Their office affair had started with one rule: don't get caught. But Maya had discovered that the best things in life came from breaking the rules, taking chances, and letting yourself be caught by something bigger and more beautiful than you ever imagined possible. And as David's arms tightened around her, and they began to dream out loud about their future together, Maya knew that she'd never been happier to be caught in her life.